Hickory, Wayne Powell.
All right, do we have any visiting Rotarians to my right? Any down the center? Got Linda?
Yes, Andy Cody with Nationwide is back with us again today visiting. Welcome, Andy.
Do we have any on the left? Oh, down the center still, okay? Bob?
My pleasure to introduce our older daughter, Adrian, to you. She was not able to be here several years ago when I sponsored her for a Paul Harris Fellow, and she's here today, and I'd like to introduce you to her. She graduated from Hickory High in '95, having lettered in 4 different sports, and was a pretty good student too. And then went to the John Olson Institute of Higher Education, better known as Appalachian State University, for her undergraduate and then graduate degree in counseling, and she now works for Ceridian Corporation in their counseling department in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yeah.
Alan?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Darren Harris. He's the new marketing director for Ortho Carolina here in Hickory. He's a Rotarian in the past in St. Louis, lives in Durham now, and is currently looking for a home or a house. He's house hunting to move his family here to Hickory. Darren Harris.
Buddy, oh, back to the right. Charles Young.
We was looking for visiting Rotarians, I thought, but then we were going to do friends of Rotarians, guest Rotarians. I have with my guest today a young man that's new to Hickory, but I'm sure he's going to make a real contribution to Lenore, Ryan, and Hickory because I know his mother and daddy, and they're good people. Ryan Odom, the new basketball coach.
Anybody else down the center? Anybody to my left? All right. And Charles? Time for the sunshine moment.
I'm going to have some sunshine. Thank you, Mark. As you can see, I'm filling in for Mitzi, and I didn't have a lot of time to work on this, so I went to the old reliable Yogi Berra to see what Yogi might have to say, and I had the pleasure 15 or 20 years ago of picking Yogi up at the Charlotte airport and bringing him to Hickory, and he's the same guy sitting in a car as he is everywhere that you see him on television or whatever. Kind of tells you what he really thinks, and sort of is what you get what you see, you know. And I remember him saying, we were about halfway back, and we were talking about some of the people he played with, and he said that he thought Mickey Mantle was an alcoholic because he drank too much. And I remember looking out the window of the car, and I thought, he really says stuff like that. But he had plenty of sense. He's no dummy, I'll tell you that. But that was for the Sportsman's Club, and the Sportsman's Club sends out invitations to former speakers for every meeting. And Yogi, for years, would call about a week ahead of time, and he'd say, I believe I'm going to make it next week. But then about a day or two before, something had come up, and he didn't make it. But the guy took it real serious to come back down here for a Sportsman's Club meeting. But you know, Yogi said, and I do believe he said these things, even though he said, I didn't say all the things I said. But you know the one about that nobody goes there anymore because it's too crowded. But I read one recently in a book, that book you let me have. Some guy that played in the majors for about 15 years, but I don't know how he did. He was pickled. I mean, that guy drank all the time. And his regular thing was to come to bed about 4 o'clock in the morning, but he stayed in the major leagues. But he was rooming with Yogi on a road trip back long enough ago that they shared rooms. And Yogi got a call from his wife, and he said, "I don't see how you could be pregnant. You've got that new diagram."
Thank you, Charles. We have announcements. Meg, did you have an announcement?
Hey everybody, tomorrow at Holler Mill, we are filming an episode of Anglers and Appetites. We were invited by Fox Sports South to be a part of this, and the unofficial mayor of Hickory, our own Steve Mull, is on the lake right now. They're fishing for striper and catfish. I think striper and catfish are the two they're doing. I'm not saying we're actually going to serve those. I'm just saying that I think Steve left a message yesterday, he said it's called fishing, not catching. So we'll see how all that goes. We'll be filming tomorrow. I would love to invite any of you. We're going to do a final feast. So they're going to feature a kitchenette scene downstairs in the ale house and then one upstairs in Highland Avenue. And so our chef will be doing that, but then we're going to have a final feast, and if any of you are available around 3 o'clock to come and be our guest and be a part of that, I need to know today so I can put your name in the pot so I can come maybe to serve for. But it will be airing in the fall on Fox Sports South. David Zelski is the producer. Catawba Valley Tourism and CVB and City of Hickory are part of the sponsorships along with us, and we're thrilled for this. It's a great opportunity for Hickory to be seen, so we'll be doing business well crafted, taste well crafted. It's exciting, I think, for what we're doing. So if y'all are available to come, please let me know. It's a great opportunity, and when you see Steve, tell him we hope he was doing catching, not fishing.
Thank you, Meg. Does anybody else have any other announcements? I'd like to remind everybody that next week we will not be meeting at noon. We'll be meeting at 5:30 here at the same location. To celebrate our year, giving awards, we'll have some of the folks will be presenting some Paul Harris Fellows. So hope everybody will be able to make it next week. If you could, we have a sign-up sheet on the table over here. As you're leaving, if you didn't get it on the way in, if you could sign it on the way out so we can give the club an idea of how many folks we're going to have next Thursday evening. David's promised to have everybody out of here after about an hour and a half, 2 hours max. So we'll have a cash bar, there'll be some hors d'oeuvres. And then, of course, the buffet program, he said, will start somewhere about 6:15 or so, and it begins at 5:30. Also, just a reminder, we'll have out in July some boxes to collect hygiene and school supplies for the First Advent Christian Church of Hickory Back to School Festival, which they support about 150 kids. It's a free event, and one of our own waitresses, Robin, is in charge of that this year, so we're going to help her out. We'll have some boxes out during our meetings in July. Does anybody else have any other announcements? All right. Well, I have the pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Most of you probably know Mary Margaret Baker. She did me a huge favor. I called her on Tuesday and asked if she could speak today. So I think I'm trying to stall a little bit. I think she's still compiling her speech as she's sitting here right now. Our scheduled speaker gave us the old emergency gallbladder surgery. Oh, wow. So if we had a nickel for every time we heard that excuse. So Mary Margaret agreed to do that. She'd come in and help us out. She is going to talk to us a little bit about the mesh, which she has spoke to the club previously, I think maybe a year or 2 years ago, about that mesh a little bit, what they do over at Jackson Group. She may even touch, she does a lot of nonprofit. She's been heavily involved with Friends of Hickory, which is very fitting with what, obviously, our donation and then our club and what we've been doing with them. And then also she's with the Junior Women's Club and probably a bunch of other things. I know she's actually with the, not the Imagination Library, but Partnership for Children. Thank you. I couldn't think of the official name. So you're the president again for the second time in a row. So she does a lot of things in our community. She's very plugged in, very active, and they do a lot of great things at the Jackson Group. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Margaret.
Thanks. Hello, thank you, Mark, for you now are working up your tab of how much you owe me in papers. But I'm happy to help out and see a lot of familiar faces. Mark told me I had about 15 minutes or so, which is unfortunate because after 15 minutes I get really good at speaking. Before that I get a little nervous. So just bear with me. He told me to come and talk about the mesh. So yesterday I was had everything ready to go and was prepared to talk about the mesh, and then my dad found out that I was speaking here, and my brother found out, and they both told me to change everything and talk about something totally different. So I've learned over the years to talk and listen to them, but I'm gonna combine it and talk a little bit about a little bit of everything that Mark just said. I do feel like, well, I get told a lot that, people ask, when do you sleep? And gosh, like you seem to have so much on your plate, but I don't see it that way. I feel like I am just doing what I'm supposed to be doing, what I should be doing here in the community. I'm a local, grew up here, Catawba County, born and bred. I chose to stick around and go to Lenore Ryan. I lived on campus and studied abroad and make my parents happy that I wasn't living at home. But I then moved away for a while, came back, married a guy from here too. We wanted to get back here and raise our family. So, and now I'm owning a business here. And I think a lot of that probably relates with you guys. But the thing that we're trying to do in our business, which is, as Mark said, the mesh.tv. I'm not gonna bore you with the extreme details of what the mesh is, but it's online podcast network, lots of different shows, lots of different entertainment things to listen to. Podcasting is kind of the way of the future, and we're a featured provider on Apple iTunes, so you can find us online. You can listen on any sort of mobile device that you have. There's shows from sports and education up to entertainment to, I was talking to some guy one day and he told me that his wife loves to listen to the crocheting podcast. I was like, how do you listen to a podcast about crocheting? But nonetheless, that sounds exciting. So there's something for everybody, and we're trying to do something a little different here in Hickory. Now, some of you probably know my brother Alan, but Alan and I started the Mesh as a hobby, mainly because we like to listen to podcasts, and we wanted to make our own podcast and have other people listen to us. So we knew that nobody around here was doing that. And that's something we kind of like to do, is something new and different. So it was a hobby, it was a side job, it was something that we did in our spare time, and then it became a job, and it became a business, and we had people listening, and we had Apple calling us, and things were happening, and so we started making a goal that we were going to try as many times as you can in this show to say either Hickory, Catawba County, Western North Carolina, anything to do with this area, and see how many times we could squeeze it in a show without being awkward. But that's just what we do, and that's what we're hoping that other people will start doing. They will start promoting this area, start standing behind the initiatives that are taking place. Which brings me to what we are doing as a group of businesses, which is the Jackson Group Interactive, and the Mesh, all under one. We are trying to, and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here, and don't tell my dad that I told you guys this, but sometimes we will do things pro bono, for no money, because it's just the right thing to do. It is something that will obviously benefit us in the end. So I wanted to share with you sort of our philosophy on that, and how our business is working with some of the initiatives that are taking place right now that I'm sure you're all very familiar with. Boost Hickory, Inspiring Spaces, and more recently, Innovate Catawba. So some of our three words that we kind of stick with: contribute, sponsor, and choose. Contribute. It's not just emptying a pocket out. It's not just giving change or dollars or signing a check. We contribute our time. At the Mesh, we do shows in our spare time. We do it after hours. We do it on our lunch breaks. We do shows that are relevant to this area, talking about the news. Maybe we're talking about sports. We're talking about entertainment here in the area. And again, education. All of these things are important. We're just trying to get the name out of our area. So if we're contributing our time, it's just, maybe an hour a week or something. We give our employees 4 hours a month to serve community service. They can use it however they want, whether it's going and donating books somewhere, whether it's painting houses for Habitat or whatever it may be. Maybe it's just to go to some board meetings that they serve on and choose to be a part of the community. But we encourage that. We want our employees to be a part of these activities and to support this growing community. Sponsor. So yes, the mesh can operate really by our contributions of our spare time, but we do look for sponsorships. We look for ads. We have people that pay for ads, and that's how we basically do more and more. But we as the mesh like to try to sponsor things that we believe in, sponsor events that we can, even if it's just by spreading the word. Sometimes we don't have the money to do it. We're a startup, and we don't always have the cash to hand over. But I can talk, I can spread the word, and I can tell everybody on Facebook or LinkedIn, or just pick up the phone and spread the word. So sponsoring, again, in our world is not just by money, but by our mouths, our using our connections in town, using all those things that you were talking about that I do. Main important one, the last one is choose. We choose to be a part of this. We choose to be a part of Innovate Catawba. We choose to support Inspiring Spaces. We choose to support Friends of Hickory and Boost Hickory and these other things, not because we're taking any sort of political stances. We're not taking that way. This isn't, in our minds, not political. It's growing your community. It's bringing people to the area that are going to come be our guests on the mesh, that we're going to go do videos for at Jackson Group, that we are going to, have joined Rotary clubs and grow your community. So it just makes sense to us to do these things by contributing time, supporting, by spreading the good word, and by choosing to be a part of these initiatives. So the mesh, I feel like, is something that while we do want to grow the business and continue to get bigger, I'm okay with it being kind of an avenue right now, a mouthpiece, if you will, for this community. And I would just encourage you to support us by not maybe giving us money, but by going and listening to the show. I mean, if you want to give us money, we'll take that too. But I'm just saying, if you would go and listen to any of the shows and maybe tell a friend about it. We've got a lot to say on there about these initiatives that are happening in the community, and we have a lot of local leaders come on, a lot of people that are plugged into this, and they're giving us the inside scoop. You can go on, you can listen to these, and you can write us an email if you don't agree with them. We kind of love a good debate on there. I've seen several faces in here of people that have been on shows before, and we have a good time. And again, it's something that we're doing to support the community and all the initiatives that are happening here. We see a lot of movement happening, and we're just really excited to be a part of it. So that's really all I was going to talk about, is just sort of bragging on what we're doing, but hoping that a lot of people will take that same stance with their organization and their business. Maybe giving a little bit to get a lot more in the end. Yes, Guy.
My personal favorite show, I don't know if it's still on anymore, is it Chick Chat? Is that still on?
I'm sure that is your favorite show, Chick Chat. Yes. That's our, so when we started the network, Alan, my brother, and Chris, another guy that was sitting down with us, they were talking all these shows about, we've got to have one about business, we've got to have one about movies, we've got to have one about sports, and education, this. And nobody said anything about girls, like things about girls and what girls like to listen to. And so I told him to give me one episode, let me just do it one time and see if it, if it makes sense or not. I gathered some girlfriends, we all sat around a table, turned on the mics, and we just started talking. And that episode was picked up by iTunes to be featured on the homepage in the first episode, and we had over 8,000 subscribers the first week, and now it's our highest ranked show. We get about 10,000 downloads a month to it. So
I was only being a little bit smart because we actually sponsored it through the hospital.
I know. It made perfect sense. The Women's Center at the hospital sponsored 6 of our episodes, and it's so kind of gives me that's my one good thing about, take that, big brother. Like, I kind of knew ahead of Alan. I'd like everyone to put that on the record. But no, thank you so much for letting me come and speak about just kind of what we're doing and how we're really trying to move forward with the initiatives that are happening here, not just from a business sense, but from a community support, and where we're excited about where Hickory's going, and glad that this group can be a part of that too.
Any other questions?
I've got a question.
Oh, we got one.
I've got a question. Mary Mark,
Kathy.
you're young, and you moved back here. And that's what we talk about a lot, how to attract young people. What when you came back, you had a job, that's huge, but what made you decide to come back? And what do you like about it, I guess?
Okay. When we moved away, I was in St. Louis first for a while, so I was in the big city. Then I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and so which, relatively, if you're familiar with Charleston, it truly is a small city. It's very small, and in Charleston, for example, I never quite, and this is just me being honest, it's a little selfish maybe, but I never quite felt like I was going to be a big fish, if you will. I never quite felt like my voice was going to be heard, essentially. And my husband was starting his own business, and we knew that we wanted to get back to this area, not just for the climate and the beauty and the whatnot, but we wanted that opportunity to kind of make a name for ourselves. And we felt like Hickory had that for us. There's lots of grounded families that have been here for a long time, and people that have made a name here, and we love that history side of Hickory, but we really wanted to make a name for ourselves. And I know I had family here and whatnot, but I think that we would have found Hickory even if we were not from here. It's just kind of custom made for us. But it's a great place to raise a family, was having a family. It's, like I said, it gives me the opportunity to say something and be heard, probably. I felt like we could make a difference here. Anybody else?
Any other questions? On behalf of the club, we have a Paul Harris coin for you with the 4-way test in the back.
Great, thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you filling on short notice. Those papers are getting long. She mentioned her husband Wes started his own business. For those who don't know, he makes teeth. It's a little unusual business, so.
It makes people smile.
That's right. It makes people smile. He makes teeth. So, let's see. Totally lost my place. Time for the raffle. Dan, give away some money. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. I can count the cards. I don't need the sheet. There's only 8 cards left. As he's making his way up here, coins in the Alzheimer's research bucket. Online makeup instructions are in the spoke. Don't forget, next week, 5:30, not noon. You can come at noon, but you're going to be lonely. 5:30. John Watts.
President Mark.
Not yet. President-elect still.
My good friend Charles Young did a great job, but he forgot one thing that we had just talked about before he went up there, and I would just like to ask everybody that is here to remember a Rotarian that passed away this week, who did a tremendous work for the community of Hickory, North Carolina for over 45 years, Charles Jeffers, and just keep his family in mind because he certainly meant a great deal to a lot of people in this community, and he did something with theater that nobody ever imagined could have happened.
Thank you very much, John. All right, as I said, we have 8 cards left. We got $103 today, so the total pot is up to $3,608. And the winning number, 921-656. Yes. 656. Yes. Ah, here we go. Dan just said I did good, didn't I? The fix might be in. You got it?
Get it.
But I get a free lunch.
Well, I guess we're gonna do the raffle next week at night. I'm assuming we will. So we'll be down to 7 cars next week. That's reason enough to come. So pot approaching $4,000. Wayne, thank you for making up with us. And I'd like to thank our guests, Andy, Adrian, Darren, and Ryan for joining us today. Let's close with the 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?